Hello everyone, a very good morning to you and welcome to Spa-Francorchamps, Circuit to Spa-Francorchamps here in the Ardennes region of Belgium, where we see the penultimate round of Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell for 2023. Cars are about to head out to qualify for their race to come a little bit later. 2 races across the course of the weekend and separate qualifying sessions for each of those races to set the grid. And this is where we are then. We urge you please to become part of the family and follow us on @Ferrari Races. Whatever your preferred method of social media, please be part of it. So this wonderful circuit, 7.004 kilometers. There are 19 turns, 10 of them are left-handers, 9 of them are right-handers, and it is very undulating through the Ardennes here. The air temperature is currently 20 degrees, track temperature 24 degrees. The wind has increased by 3 kilometers per hour. My goodness. So it's now fluttering at 4 kilometers per hour gusts, which is nothing, truthfully. In fact, if you measured the vocal pressure from my colleague alongside me, it would probably register at more than 4 kilometers per hour. A very good morning to Nico Spalek alongside me, as always. A delight to be with you as we combine this UK-German partnership to bring the best of the action from the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell here in Europe. And it's been a brilliant season, and just last night, as we look at the car of Manuela Gostner, the calendar was revealed for the 2024 season, which looks wonderful.
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. Hello, Manuela Gostner, ready in the car to start her qualifying session in, well, maybe 2.5 minutes or maybe a little longer. Yeah, absolutely. It's been 175 days since we opened this very season, and it's a little bit longer to the start of next year's season, as we have Pino Frascaro here in shot also preparing. And it is a great calendar next year. If you want to try and combine vacations and the Ferrari Challenge, next year is the year to do it. We will be going
Vacation.
to
Holiday. I
we'll,
remember that.
We'll be going to Tuscany in early May. We will be going to the Balaton Lake, the very new circuit, at the beginning of June. We will be in the Algarve at Portimao at the beginning of July, and then follow up with Jerez in the south of Spain later in July. Then it is Le Castellet, the south of France.
And then it's snow.
And then it's snow at the Nürburgring. Yeah, that's my home. That's my home hood. And yeah, it's going to be snowing, or it's going to be 38 degrees. You never know. And it's probably going to be the same, both at the same weekend.
Yes.
That is early September. And then we go to the World Finals, and we don't quite know where and when exactly that is. That will be released at this year's World Final, which is 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away.
There's Kirk Beervold giving us the thumbs up now. Kirk Beervold for Kessel Racing, who is doing a fine job this year. And Kirk Beervold in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am is currently leading the points on 80 points. So 8 points ahead of Motohiko Isosaki, who we saw a few moments ago. There's the Alexander Nussbaumer car. Kirk Beervold, may I mention, I said I'd big him up because he has promised me, Nico, that when we arrive in Mugello, well, it's not the royal way, because he said nothing about you at all. But Kirk said, I'm going to give you a ride around Mugello like you've never experienced before. So I'm very much looking forward to that, because Kirk is a fine man and a fine driver, as indeed is Eric Chung. Hello, Eric. Good morning to you. Another one of our top drivers gives us a thumbs up from Formula Racing, the team led by Alan Jurgensen, who I was speaking to just a few months ago on my way up to our really rather opulent and lavish studio that we have here in Spa-Francorchamps to bring you the broadcast of all of the action that is occurring across the course of this weekend on this 7-kilometer circuit. It is Ferrari Challenge. This wonderful one-make series, which is the envy of so many.
Indeed, and when we talk about the calendar for next year, that not only brings us a new calendar, new circuits, like Balaton Lake, and also will bring us a new car, the 296 Challenge will be, but for now, it's the 488.
And it's piloted by one Lisa Clark that we're looking at here. Now, Lisa was racing just last weekend, Nico, in Road America in Wisconsin in America. where she took a P2 and a race win overall. Absolutely stunning weekend for Lisa.
Absolutely.
She did really, really well and richly deserved, and is in a very good position in the North American Championship, which of course will conclude at the Finale Mondiale that we were talking about just a few moments ago. Here's Tommy Lindroth. There's so many stories we could tell you about Tommy Lindroth. Actually, not so many of them are broadcastable, perhaps, but Tommy is one of the... I mean, everyone in the Ferrari Challenge is a character in their own right, but when it comes to character, Tommy is capital C.
Absolutely.
He's been, I have to say, Tommy is... He's developed this driver-coach relationship with Fabian Volvend, a former Ferrari Challenge star. And I have to say, Fabian has been able to get the very, very best out of Tommy. His performances in the car have been awesome since Fabian has been responsible for kicking his bottom.
Oh, absolutely. And as you say, Fabienne has been a star and race winner here in the challenge in her own right, and she really gets the best out of Tommy Lindroth. His moniker is I am here, and he has really been here this season, and he's made his presence felt on the podium and on the track, and Fabienne is probably contributing to even a better lifestyle and a more healthy diet, potentially. Well, at least she's trying.
Well, I mentioned to Tommy that, I felt that he lost some weight. He said, absolutely, and I'm sure you're right. I'm sure part of the motivation for that has been the headmistress discipline that comes from Fabienne Volvend. And Tommy, of course, is often seen alongside Christian Kinch, the car made famous by the Bactiguard logo down the side of it. And it's like little and large, isn't it? Because Tommy Lindroth is 4 foot nothing, and Christian Kinch is the best part of 7 foot. But they are just wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah, both from Sweden and both very, very likable, as is pretty much everybody in the paddock.
But I can't think of anyone I don't like, you're right.
Yeah, but those two really
Maybe
form a formidable couple. Yeah, thank you. And we have a first yellow flag at turn 5. That probably means cold tires and someone having gone around.
I agree.
Probably either pick that up or it's going to be...
and that's into the chicane, isn't it? Carrying too much speed, but it's been rescinded now, so it wasn't someone just went round, as you say, on cold tires.
Probably. So we go on board with Tommy Lindroth, and it's not at race speed yet. It gives you some impression of a dry Spa, which is not something that we see every day or every year, indeed.
Well, it was interesting because you were talking about the calendar for 2024, and whilst we wax lyrical before we get any meaningful times on the board, I hope you'll forgive us for that, because we can do that currently. Nürburgring is but a stone's throw from here, relatively. Maybe an hour's drive?
Yeah, depending on who's driving.
And interestingly, both here and Nürburgring, they've kind of got their own microclimate, haven't they? And let's be truthful. You said to me, as you very kindly collected me at the airport yesterday, I said, having looked at the forecast for Spa-Francorchamps for this weekend, like never before, I have decided, touch wood, not wishing to jinx anything, not to pack any waterproofs. Because the forecast is exceptional. And in fact, in all the years that I've been to Spa-Francorchamps, of which there are many, I'm not convinced I've ever seen such stability in the weather.
Well, Spa forecast and Spa in forecast. If you look at our weather app, it says 30% chance of rain for today. However, the forecast says that's going to be somewhere deep in the night, where I might be out walking, but no, everybody else will be in bed. Well, no. But you never know in this microclimate.
No,
it can change on a dime. I believe I've witnessed exactly one dry weekend out of the probably 25 I've done here. Mm-hmm. It's always rained at some point, and it's probably going to be raining at some point this weekend. Unlikely that it's really going to affect the race action, and I do believe the Pirelli P0 rain variety will stay firmly on the tire trolleys, but we will see. And again, Tommy Lindroth, even though we put the time on his lap, it's not really a meaningful one that he's doing. He's not pushing, he's not attacking the apexes, and I don't think anybody really is. We have Axel starting on our timing screen with something purple, but it's a long way away from anything really competitive. Talking about competitive times, we had the Trofeo Pirelli qualifying on a little bit earlier this morning, and they blew the pole times from 2 years ago when we were here last with the 488 Challenge Evo to smithereens. They took a full second out of the best time that was laid in 2021. So expect this to be a good one. And indeed, we have the first times on our screen. You can see them on the very left-hand side. Axel Sartingen, Christian Kinch, and Josef Schumacher, the first three to put in times. And the 2:27.536 by Axel Sartingen really isn't a bad time. And it would have been a good one last time around.
Now, Axel's strategy here, I would suggest, Nico, and bearing in mind Axel's in a very good position at the top of the points for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell drivers. Now bear in mind, so that you can identify the two categories that are out here qualifying at the moment, the Shell AM drivers have got the black strip across the top of their windscreen, as can be seen there from, I think that was the Matthias Moser car. And the Shell drivers have the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, as we can see there from Axel Sartingen, who we were talking about. I was saying, Nico, I think Axel's strategy here has been out to bank a lap early on in case something untoward should happen during the 23.5 minutes that remain in the qualifying session. And thus far, you know, he has done that with a not too shabby time of 2:27.536. So basically what that means is, I'm sure he's going to be convinced that he can go quicker than that, but he's banked that lap, hasn't he? And he's got at least one in the book.
And he's going quick again, 7/10 already quicker after the first sector. And just to give you a reference, pole time, the quickest pole time in Coppa Shell last time around was set by Axel Sartingen, and it was a 2:26.136. So take the 2:27.5, take the 8/10 that he's already taken out of that, and he's only within 7/10 of that already in the very early stages. So we know the track and the car combination is very quick here today.
Yes.
So that may not be the limit, but certainly, as you said, he is going to make sure that disaster doesn't befall him, because he's such a healthy lead in the championship that he really needs to just score semi-consistently over the rest of the season and be assured championship.
Yes, which is so dear to him this year. I mean, he came very close last year with the competition between himself and Franz Engstler last year, which was absolutely awesome. And what we must bear in mind and also reinforce to our audience is that this man, Axel Sartingen, he came into motor racing later in life than Franz Engstler, who was racing much earlier in his career. Therefore, Franz has got a huge experience. Axel less so, but he's done a lot of racing in the last few years, and boy, he's really come good. And with the 2:26.130, he reinforces that coming good.
Exactly, and that beats his own pole time by 6/1000, so that's already been better. Than everything from here on out will be an even better one. I think it was Daniele Diamato who told us that Axel spends like 389 days per year in the car. On that, but it's not a huge exaggeration. He really takes it very seriously.
He does, and that applies to his lifestyle as well, Nico, because he was explaining to us last night that, you know, and he lives not very far from you, to be fair, in Germany. You know, when his friends are out at dinner parties and things like that, he's not necessarily partaking as he would have done in previous years. He's very conscious of actually, you know, I need to focus on what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm doing in terms of racing, and therefore his consumption of certain beverages is probably reduced, and probably his consumption of food has altered and that's how seriously he's taken his competition and his racing. And we very often see him when you and I have been out on track walks at various circuits around Europe. You know, Axel's always out there. He's looking at every corner, and his aptitude and attitude towards his racing career has really been pitch point perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, he is really embracing this challenge and the championship. And in fairness, you mentioned his battle with Franz Engstler, and he was very close to Franz, but he, by his own admission, you know, there were several races where he was able to hold off Franz for 20 minutes, but the moment Franz got by, he knew that was race over. And we can see it in Trofeo Pirelli M this year. Franz Engstler is taking no prisoners. He's dominating that championship, and for Axel to have been on the same level almost is a testament of his race.
Absolutely commendable. And you know, to reinforce, I mean, Franz Engstler, you could put him on a wheelbarrow and he would still win a race. You know, such is his talent. Next, a big up to Josef Schumacher, who's gone quickest for Coppa Am drivers, ahead of Henrik Kamstrup and Lisa Clark. And just also mention the driver that's currently P3 in Coppa, and that's Thor Haugen, another USA-based racer that has made the trip over to Belgium for this weekend. So welcome, Thor, and good luck in your races across this weekend. I was having a chat with him and Lisa last night, and indeed chatted to them, of course, last weekend as well. It's lovely to see them here. And to the big fella, Christian Kinch, who is second fastest now, who's posted a time of 2:27.859. This is Thor Haugen that we were talking about, driving for the Rosso Corsa Pelin racing team, and very impressive driver, and one to really, really watch, Nico. My interest in him was piqued last weekend, and he gave us an onboard lap around a similarly undulating circuit last weekend, and Thor is obviously an accomplished driver, and currently is out there setting a sector time which is not too shabby through Sector 1.
Well, it is purple. That means quickest of all. Christian Kinch also with a very, very good first sector. And obviously, Thor Haugen, you would expect to have a little bit of less track knowledge around here than some of the European drivers. And
Agreed.
For him to be that competitive in the early stages of this session, very, very commendable. Let's see how he rates after the second sector. Well, he lost quite a bit of time there, but we're still early goings in this qualifying session. It's still very, very good and very competitive. Christian Kinch still purple after sector 1. Henrik Kamstrup, also an AM driver, very, very good first sector. Lost a little bit, as we just see on the second one. So a little bit surprising, to be honest, to see that many drivers out in the early part of qualifying here today. Generally, on Saturday we see... Oh! Stop that thought. Thor Haugen overcooks a little bit into the bus stop chicane, and that naturally ruined this lap, and probably ruins the next one as well.
Yes, because his setup for the next one is going to be compromised, isn't it?
Indeed. There is Christian Kinch, and he is still going for it. Second sector, nothing to write home about, and traffic may have played a role in that, but here he is alongside Lisa Clark, or trying to get alongside, and does here entering the bus stop chicane.
I should mention you're seeing a couple of names that are perhaps unfamiliar on the graphics to the left-hand side of your screen, and two of those are Paul Simerson, who's currently third fastest for Coppa Am, and Paul Hogarth. Now, they're both drivers from the UK series, which incidentally, or coincidentally, is also racing here this weekend. Separate categorization, completely separate series, but both Paul and Paul Simerson have decided, Paul Hogarth and Paul Simerson, to also, Nico, race in the European races this weekend. And of course what that does, and they're both hoping for, is the fact that that will give them a little bit additional knowledge in terms of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And I have to say, I'm really, really impressed here with Paul Simerson, who's currently fourth fastest across the European competitors now. Both Paul Hogarth and Paul Simerson also raced with the European drivers, of course, in that wonderful marathon that we had at the Circuit de la Sarthe in June this year at the Le Mans 24-hour race. And memory serves me, Paul Hogarth actually took an overall podium in that. So they're both hugely competitive drivers, and actually when it comes to the championship in the UK, it's these two drivers that are vying for that top spot between Paul Hogarth and Paul Simerson at the moment. There we are, just a little bit more information for you. Matthias Moser, welcome back to Matthias, is currently the quickest of the Shell Am drivers with a time of 2:27.098, and the best of the Shell drivers is Axel Suttingham with a 2:26.130. Bear in mind, quickest time not only gives you pole position, which is very important, it also gives you an additional point as we watch Henrik Kamstrup here. So Henrik Kamstrup in the 113 car, also going quickly, Nico. Quicker than anyone through Sector 1. Personal best through Sector 2. Henrik is looking good here for Formula Racing. Henrik has had something of a purple patch in terms of racing. Really, really likeable individual. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4 podiums. The class race win hasn't come his way yet. Perhaps it will this weekend. Bus stop chicane.
No, very, very few is that the quickest round anyone, but or anywhere rather. But you know, he's testing the limits of adhesion. Obviously, no collision with the barriers. That means no compromising of his qualifying session, and we see more quick times. Roger Groves is one of them. Obviously, he should know his way around Spa, and he was one of the big entertainers just a few seasons ago. Has been a little bit more quiet recently, but it's always good to see him, and very good to see him competitive. Another of the great characters here. As are so many showing on our timing screen as having improvements. Manuela Gostner among them, Willem van der Boom, Thomas Gostner, Alexander Nussbaumer, Ernst Kirchmayr, who's not doing a full season campaign, but a very, very entertaining and great character for the Baron Motorsport team as well. As we watch Henrik Kemps with another very quick first sector. And it has to be said, Spa is one of those circuits where the sectors are very, very different. And you can make a big difference in terms of how you set up your car, in terms of top speed, which will obviously benefit you to the first sector, and a little bit more downforce, which will be more beneficial through sectors 2 and 3, just because the characters of the sectors are so different.
And that impacts and affects not only the drivers but the teams, and the relationship between the drivers and the teams in terms of how the setup of the car is designed. Now, the setup of the car is always a compromise, isn't it? Because the tracks, you have to adapt the car to suit the track and also the driving style of any particular driver. As Henrik Kemps takes a wide line to get past, I think that was Werner Gente. That will have compromised Henrik's lap. There's no question about that. And we can see, Nico, the track limits has been something of an issue here at Spa during qualifying sessions that we've seen. And a number of drivers have exceeded the track limits, and those include Axel Sartigan, in fairness, in a previous lap, Motohiko Isasaki, Paul Hogarth, also Giuseppe Romelli, and Guy Fort as well, as Henrik decides to bail that lap and comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, and there's one specific spot in terms of track limits, which is turn 17.
Yeah, where you're carrying a lot of speed, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. That is Blanchimont, and that is that left-hander just before you get to the bus stop. And that is just because you're coming, it's not a straight really, but it's
close.
Almost, certainly a full throttle part of the track. And you can, you're so tempted to just go full throttle through there, and you almost have to. But that means, if you don't catch quite the apex, you're just a few centimeters off it. That additional speed, you just run a little wide, and race control is having a very keen eye on that. And this is exactly where Motohiko Isasaki is heading now. So that first kink and now that one, you run through that left-hander, and this is, Motohiko Isasaki keeps it inside the white lines, but it's so easy to just run like that.
So this looks like it's a very good time for Motohiko Isasaki as he heads towards breaking the timing beam now as he exits the bus stop chicane. Motohiko Isasaki, who's had a stellar season, it has to be said, and actually just one win, but he does go P1 right now within class. So besting Matthias Moser and Henrik Kamstrup at the moment. There's Thomas Gostner. He crosses the timing line. As you can see, purple sector, sector 1, and personal best through sector 2 and sector 3. Nico was extolling the virtues of Roger Groves earlier on, who's currently second fastest overall and second fastest within the Shell category of Ferrari Challenge as well. There is Ernst Kirchmayr. Now, sector 1 is purple, Kelsa Breeze. This man, when he gets into a 4-day Challenge Evo, is one where, the bet would be an investment, really, because he has proven time and time again just what a prolific driver he is. And you can see that he has rounded out his sector 2 with a purple as well, which means he's gone quicker than anyone. So he's currently sitting in class P13, and I can assure you he's not going to end up there at the end of the qualifying session. And if he gets the bus stop chicane done absolutely perfectly, there's a very good chance that he will vault 12 places and become our new provisional pole sitter as he heads towards the timing line. That's precisely what he's done. He's taken a full 7/10 out of the time of Axel Sartigan. Now, the thing is with Ernst, because he's only doing a part campaign in the Ferrari Challenge, he's not a championship contender. But if everything were to stay the way it is right now, what he will have taken away from Axel Sartigan is not only pole position, but also that valuable point for pole position too.
Yeah, obviously Axel Sarting will be aware of that. Axel went out very early and
Yes.
retired to the pit, so it's possible he will come out, it's possible he won't. He will also look at it like that. He has a healthy margin.
He does have a healthy margin.
So any point that Ernst Kirchmayr takes is a point that can't be taken by any of his championship competitors.
Including von Skeltermar, who
Indeed.
currently is P2, if memory serves me, in the Drivers' Championship.
So if Ernst were to win, that would take points away the maximum point haul. So it's you can kind of view it that both ways, and Axel certainly is one who will analyze that, as we see into the D2P garage.
I think that was Giorgio Sonagiotto, was
Indeed.
it not, in the CDP garage with
Sorry.
MP Racing Massimo Pepe? Not at all. I wasn't correct, and you had
Well,
right.
but-
I should have slapped in a moment.
Correctly.
Absolute
Probably talking to Manuela Gostner.
audacity. Yes. Now, Giorgio Sonagiotto, he has this really, really interesting, because he kind of looks after three and sometimes four drivers, doesn't he? Because he's kind of responsible for the entire Gostner family. At times, there's Manuela, there's Thomas, there's Corinna, and there's also David, who are all racing on the same weekends. Well, Giorgio, he's got his work cut out.
Yeah, no, he's Senator Gostner, almost
Yeah.
part of the family.
I agree with you.
And there is Manuela, actually, currently running in P4 in class, that's P6 overall, but showing purple on our timing screen through Sector 1, and that purple fits very well with the car livery, it has to be said.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Which is funny, because on our timing screen, the three colors that we have is blue, white, and purple,
Well, I never.
and a little bit of yellow, and I mean, you couldn't make it out. I think I have to ask Manuela if there is any relation to the way her livery was perceived, because it's exactly the color combination. But enough of that. Let's look at where she is going through those turns and approaching the timeline for Sector 2, 1:47.892. That looked like a little bit of a sideways moment. Where does she figure? 6/10 down. That is still on course for an improvement, but it's certainly not up to par with her Sector 1. So with 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, running here through Blanchimont. Make sure you stay within the white lines with at least two wheels. She did that.
Yes.
Nice control, no traffic ahead of her, braking into the bucket stop. You can see the brake discs light up. Right, left, throttle, finish line, timing line, 6 minutes 20 seconds remaining. P4 turns into still P4. Well, she did improve, and she vaulted Motohiko Isozaki and Matthias Moser, who are the top 2 M drivers. So it is an improvement in terms of where she would line up on the grid, but it's not an improvement where she ranks in terms of class.
This surprises me. Kirchmayr is deciding to go again. And the reason it surprises me, Nico, to articulate the story, is that he's already P1. Probably the drivers that would threaten that. Certainly Axel Sartigan is in the pit lane, and he's not going to go again. I wouldn't suggest with just 5 3/4 minutes left on the clock. So I'm kind of surprised that Ernst is going again. He is chasing down von Skeltermar, who Fons needs an improvement because he's currently sitting P9 overall in class. That's P7. So yeah, I'm just a little surprised that Kirchmayr has decided to go out again.
Well, but Ernst is someone that strategy is one part, and he is someone who drives with his head, but he's also got immense level of passion, and he's not raced too much this year in the challenge, so he's also maximizing seat time potentially. Manuela Gostner, she is going again, very, very good first sector, half a second quicker than the current pole time through Sector 1. So we will be watching her, and obviously you can see her time on the screen. Ernst Kirchmayr, second sector, not quite up to speed, but let's see if he will pull into pit lane, and we'll know in but a few seconds.
Just his speed going into the bus stop, to me, means he will be indicating right. I'm wrong. He's setting it up for going again now. So what he was doing there by slowing down was buying himself some time, some track space, wasn't he?
Yeah, Manuela Gostner, second sector, again lost a full second, which is still on course for an improvement. But that goes back, I think, to the way the cars are being set up. Maybe Ernst Kirchmayr set it up a little bit more for the slower, more twisty parts and more downforce, where Manuela Gostner just went for a little bit more top speed, and that benefits her in the first sector, but comes back and reduces the chances of being quick through sectors 2 and 3. It's always a balance, and it's, you know, it's difficult for us to tell from where we sit here, but it's certainly a possibility. A little bit of an improvement in terms of time? No, actually not, because there was also some track limit infraction there. So 3 minutes 45 seconds remaining. We've got Thomas Loflat with a good first sector. We've got Eric Chung. We've got von Skelterman, who's trying to improve from P9. And there is Thomas Loflat, who we just mentioned, the 152 car. He is a shell driver as well, as you can tell from the yellow background to his current position. He's P10 in class.
Thomas' first showing in this year's Ferrari Challenge came last time around at Estoril, I believe, and therefore he's continuing his trajectory. And Sector 1 was purple, Sector 2 was not quite so good, and with just over 3 minutes of the session remaining, Thomas is certainly going to have the benefit of this lap and potentially one more to go again, should he so choose to do. Interesting, Nico, just looking at the timing screen of which you and I have the benefit of. Does that indicator say that Axel Sargent is coming out again?
Yeah, it does. Well, I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able or aiming to achieve an improvement, which Thomas Loflat didn't quite. And Roger Groves has gone to the top of the timing screen by 3/1000ths of a second. Wow, that is close. It's a 2:25.394.
Oh, we've got a car stopped.
2:25.397, and that is
Kirchmayr gone around at the exit of the bus stop.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be a yellow flag, but that should have been removed very shortly. Let's see how that came about.
So here is Kirchmayr then making his way through the bus stop. And you can see he's already piling on the opposite lock. The back end is starting to slip away, and thankfully there was no one following close by. In fairness, Kirchmayr is out of position, Nico, in qualifying.
He is P23 overall. That's only P10 in class. That's not where he has been recently, and certainly not where he wants to be. And I mean, certainly by virtue of that spin, that means it didn't only ruin the last lap. It also means that any chance of having an improvement from there on is ruined.
Not sure he's going to get another lap, Nico.
Agreed. I think it's very, very unlikely, which is another way of saying impossible based on the duration of the lap. And Tommy Lindroth is stopping alongside the track, and that will, mean a yellow flag, and that means nobody who's going through that point will have a chance to improve, just because you can't go as quickly as you would like. Certainly not.
There you can see. Sorry, you saw very briefly there the garage of Baron Motorsport with Fabien Volvent talking to Tommy Lindroth on the radio. So Tommy's parked up, and that means that there is only a minute remaining in this session. I don't think anyone is showing purple either, so there was no one really improving. And there we can go into another garage as Manuela Gostner. The yellow flag now being shown at turn 13, which we suspect is where Tommy has parked the car.
Yeah, and Manuela, I think her team will tell her that you can actually ease up. There is no point, because you can't make up enough time in the other sectors to really have a hope of improving through enough for that yellow sector which is inevitably going to cost you time, to be compensated. But, the team is going to do what the team is going to do. The first sector by Manuela is purple, in fact. And Axel Sargent also with a quick first sector, so Josef Schumacher. But I do think, in fairness, the Tommy Lindroth car will throw a spanner in the works.
Yes, and a 19mm spanner at that as well. It's going to be quite a big one, because the session is now over. Of course, the new driver that crossed the timing line before the clock had counted down to 0. Ordinarily, the next lap would still count, but as Nico has quite rightly said and articulated, that with a yellow flag zone and a car parked up there, it probably means that the increase that you can make through where you're not impacted by the yellow flag is not going to be enough to compensate for what you've got to slow through that yellow flag. So the likelihood of anyone moving is very unlikely for the conclusion of this this Coppa Shell session. So the order is Roger Grols, P1, Ernst Kirchmayr, P2. And for Axel Sardigan, that means a row 3 start, because he's third fastest. And then for our Shell Am, sorry, a P3 start, so row 2. And then for the Shell Am drivers, it's Motohiko Isasaki and Matthias Moser on the effective virtual front row for the Am drivers. But the big thing for me in that is where Kurt Beervold is, Nico, because it's P10 in class.
Yeah, that is a big difference. And also von Skelsma, who is one of the two who has some theoretical chance to catch Axel Sardigan. Now, he doesn't lose a point in this qualifying session, but given that he or Manuela would have to catch up significantly versus Axel Sardigan, I think Axel with his P3 will be quite satisfied. Big picture, not necessarily in terms of best chances for winning the race, but you know, he certainly has the big picture in mind, and there is Motohiko Isasaki.
Now he of course will be in receipt of the Rotiform Pole Position Award for class, and there is it's been some fantastic driving that we've seen during that qualifying session. There you can see Philipp Baron with Ernst Kirchmayr.
So first sector very good.
Yeah,
second two.
Thank you for translating. I was listening in. I think I'd sussed that Philip was happy with his first sector. There's Eric Chung, and Karina Chung is alongside her husband Eric, ever present, of course, in the Ferrari Challenge. And well, that concludes our Coppa Shell qualifying. We'll bring the results up on screen for you in just a moment, in graphics as well. But the hot news is that going from pole position for Coppa Shell will be Roger Grols, and going from pole position for Coppa Shell Am will be Motohiko Isasaki. We're taking a look at the Lisa Clark car right now in that lovely livery that is carried across her 488 Challenge Evo. And there you can see one of the brilliant turns here, and we can't quite see the turn because we're looking at the pit exit, but it's a fantastic track, Nico.
Absolutely. And to the left-hand side, very left-hand side, you can see the gravel bed on the outside of Lasaurus, which has changed since the last time we were here.
Yes, absolutely.
And that means where previously, as we see.
So the Tommy Lindroth car was nursed back.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Some intermittent issue potentially there on the Tommy car, which will be sorted, and there he is. So where did Tommy finish, incidentally? P9 in class, Nico?
Yes, indeed. Which is not where he has been through this season thus far. And here are the results on screen. 3 1,000ths are the difference for pole position, so it just shows how close this Ferrari Challenge can be at times. Roger Grols, Ernst Kirchmayr, Axel Sardigan, championship front runner.
And then for the Coppa Shell Am drivers, it's Motohiko Isasaki ahead of Matthias Moser on his return. A very good showing from Matthias Moser. Just besting Henrik Kamstrup, who took P3, and then the rest of the order you can see there on screen, the mix of Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell Am drivers from that qualifying session, which is the precursor of the race to come, of course, this afternoon. And we also have qualifying for the completely separate Ferrari Challenge UK Series. Their final round of the championship, Nico, is here at Spa-Francorchamps this afternoon, and or over this weekend, I should say. And there's a very happy Roger Grols to the right-hand side of the picture there. Very much enjoying having taken that 2:25.394, as Nico said. 3 1,000ths of a second. Next session, Ferrari Challenge UK qualifying at 12:20. Please join us for that. It'll be Mark Werrell will be the voice of it, and I'll go down there and try and add some interest on a camera as well. So thank you for watching from Nico and from myself for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.